More like day only, am I right? I'm Chris Wolvie, the wrestling blog who always tells it like it is. This was supposed to be the predictions for day one. They plugged the PLE several months beforehand and even sold tickets, but recently they stopped mentioning it and instead plugged the Royal Rumble as the next WWE PLE. Turns out it was cancelled for whatever reason. And to a point I get it. This is Sunday after all, and the public will be more interested in a push for the NFL playoffs than a bunch of guys in tights fighting. And if they had kept it around, next year's would have been on a Monday. And there's no way you're preempting Raw. So, day one is no more, allegedly. At least until next time it comes around on a Saturday, I guess. And as such, it gets thrown on the pile along with so many other short-lived pay-per-view names over the decades since In Your House made them monthly. And my, are there many of them. Now, I'm not talking about the subtitles from the In Your House titles like Final Floor or St. Valentine's Day Massacre or the like. I'm talking about actual names that stuck around for 1, 2, or if they're lucky, 3 years before being tossed aside. And I'm also not talking about ones that were renamed, like when No Way Out became Elimination Chamber or the like. One of the earliest ones that had its name retired was Fully Loaded, and it was a typical pay-per-view with typical matches, nothing to sneeze at. It basically was the July pay-per-view between 1998 and 2000. In 2001, the July pay-per-view was Invasion, the first of 5 pay-per-views during the Invasion era when all the WWE were faces and those from WCW, ECW were heels. The following July became Vengeance, 7 months after the first one appeared to unify the primary titles. Like I said, Fully Loaded was nothing special. What was special was Bad Blood, though that did start off as an In Your House subtitle, with 2 D's in bad. It became its own in 2003 and became home of the Hell in the Cell match, for 2 years anyway. Of course, that got its own named pay-per-view years later, but Bad Blood put the match, and Triple H, who partook in both matches by the way, on the map. Then there was the pay-per-view that I thought Day One was trying to bring back, New Year's Revolution. First one was 2005, and it was the first, and so far only, pay-per-view that took place in Puerto Rico. Kind of weird, as people still wondering why Puerto Rico isn't a U.S. state yet. But anyway, the first 2 had the Elimination Chamber before it was bumped up a month to No Way Out. Honestly, didn't think it would last for 3 years. In fact, I didn't want it to last, as I didn't want the WWE to slap together the Royal Rumble in just a few weeks. That seems to be what they're doing anyway, so... And do you remember Breaking Point? Yeah, I don't blame you if you don't. It was an attempt to make submission wrestling noticeable in 2009. Only a few of the matches had regulation rules. The others had matches that forced one or the other to tap out or shout out to end. It even included a submissions count anywhere match and ended with The Undertaker showing that he actually could win a match with a submission hold. The last time we heard about Breaking Point was the submission mechanics of one of the WWE video games not too soon after, the only pay-per-view by that name. Also in 2009 started what was supposed to be the annual battle between Raw and SmackDown called Bragging Rights. Though to be fair, the only real, usually Raw versus SmackDown match was the 14-man elimination match featuring a mix of faces and heels from each brand striving to survive. After Teddy Long's SmackDown won the trophy twice, the name was discontinued, though it would be just over 3 years before the brands re-merged for a time. And when they split again, the rivalry was renewed through Survivor Series. Until last year, that is. Sadly, NXT isn't even immune from this. They had a pay-per-view called Worlds Collide that started in 2019. Back then it was NXT versus NXT UK versus 205 Live. And they had their own bragging rights-like event. The 2020 event led to the man now known as J.D. McDonald taking the Cruiserweight title and holding it hostage across the pond during the pandemic. There was no such event in 21, and late last year, the final one led to the end of the UK division. Will it come back once NXT Europa emerges? Who knows? Now, there was one pay-per-view name that was retired for a very specific reason. That name is Over the Edge. And In Your House subtitle in 98, it became its own in 99. Unfortunately, Over the Edge 99 was when tragedy struck the WWE. Owen Hart, as the Blue Blazer, was to be lowered from the Raptors for his shot at the Intercontinental title. But there was a malfunction with the harness, and Owen plummeted 70 feet down into the ring, killing him. While the pay-per-view is available for viewing on Peacock and the WWE Network, the tragedy and the match that was supposed to happen are edited out. Any mention of it was also edited out. And it's a good thing that the name was retired immediately after that. Just hearing the name still reminds us longtime fans about Owen, even over 23 years later. So, Day One joins those quasi-illustrious PLE names that the WWE thought was a good idea at the time, but then thought differently. And as such, the last PLE that the WWE has held for its main rosters was Survivor Series War Games. No TLC, no New Year's resolution, no Revolution, no nothing. Just like it was before the monthly pay-per-views. The only PLE shown was NXT's Deadline, which was fine, but it's still like watching the minor leagues AAA championship instead of the World Series. But again, I thought it would be for the best, and as they could plug the Royal Rumble a bit more. Silly me. I'm Chris Wolvie, the Wrestling Clock, who always tells it like it is. Pray for peace, and I'll see ya.